now. Listen up.
3, 2, 1.
It's showtime.
That's great.
This is ridiculous.
99.3 The Truth.
You can't handle the truth right now.
Ooh.
That's the stupidest thing I ever heard.
Let's do it.
Hit it. It's time for Max World.
And here we go.
Everybody, let's get it started. Let's get it started in here.
Call Mac 244-0077 or text 809-0993.
It's showtime, everybody! Showtime!
Exclusively on 99.3 The Truth.
It's 3:07 on the second day of November in the Lord's year 2016. A day that many people in this community will never forget. This is a special edition of Mac's World here on this Wednesday, as an entire state, certainly a large metropolitan area, grieves over the senseless assassination of two of the Metro's finest. Sergeant Anthony Bamino of Des Moines and Officer Justin Martin of Urbandale. We will be talking about that today and more. To start out the show, my friend and brother in Christ, Congressman Steve King. I wanted Steve to be on with us in the first part and just kind of get your thoughts on this, Congressman, as we once again face the meaningless, senseless deaths of men and women in blue who support us through our lives.
Well, at least I'm grateful to have a chance to say some things about how this strikes me. And it's like, I grew up in a law enforcement family, and I know what that brotherhood is like. The men around me wore uniforms, and they were defending the rule of law. And they were the thin blue line between civilization and lawlessness. And these lives that have been so senselessly assassinated are lives we need to remember and revere and appreciate. Anthony Bamino and Justin Martin. Their names will be forever enrolled in at least the Des Moines metro area, and I believe the state of Iowa, for the price they paid, so that we could be safe. And there's no way to rationalize it. There's no way to try to put our finger on a cause other than, I will say, a deranged individual with unknown motives apparently assassinated both of these officers within about 20 minutes last night, and within about 2 miles of each other. I'm short on facts, but what I did do is, when I learned of this, and it took a while to gather in the facts that were available, I immediately ordered all of my flags in the 5 offices and here at my home. I went out and lowered my flags all to half staff to honor the lives of Anthony Bamino and Justin Martin.
Yeah, and I think that's, I don't think the governor or anybody has given a credo. I guess you just did, to lower those flags. But as I drove through the metro this afternoon on the way to the studios, I noticed most flags. And I'm not talking just post office. Urbandale post office is down. Clive post office is or not down, but half-mast. Mm-hmm. But I also noticed flags in people's yards and flags in people's businesses that had been lowered to half-mast. And it's just incredible. Now, Steve, I don't know if you know the details that we're being told now. This man, the last time he was on the radar in Des Moines was 11 years ago, 2005, fairly insignificant. However, 3 weeks ago, he was asked to leave a Urbandale high school football game because he was standing in front of a I don't even know what the politically correct term is, African-American black section of students waving the Confederate flag. And I know that you and I both have a special place in our hearts for the Confederate flag, and quite frankly, it's idiots like this that make it hard for guys like you and I to remember the Confederate flag for really what it stood for and the history that it has in our country. He also had been evicted from his home 4 or 5 days ago by the Urbandale police. Obviously, that was something where sheriff and city police had to go in. So there was some motive and malice towards the Urbandale Police Department. They can't, at this time, they can't figure out if there's any tie between Sergeant Benino of the Des Moines Police and this man, Scott Michael Green. And
as far as the connection going back to the ball game, I don't know if that's connected. I did notice, and I watched that 11-minute tape this morning as soon as it was available to me, and I thought that he was singular in the message that he was trying to deliver. He said that he was offended by those who wouldn't stand and honor our anthem and flag. And he said that they were insulting, they were disrespectful. Those who weren't standing and honoring were disrespectful to police officers. So something happened between his defense of police officers, which seemed to be a piece of the message that was part of that video. And I didn't know he'd been evicted also. So I don't know what went on in that deranged mind. I'd be questioning, too, was he on any kind of pharmaceutical?
Yeah, we don't know that yet, although an officer that I talked to that I can't, release his name, it was just a conversation between him and I, said that they've had many, many, many dealings in Urbandale with this man, that he is, I think the term that I was used on me was deranged. Okay, we have lost Congressman King. Give him a chance to call us back, or you call him back. Whoop, there he is. And we'll get him back on the air. So, Congressman, here, get him on, Chip. There you go. Congressman, the thing we were saying Congressman, the thing we were saying after you left was I did talk to a police officer that I'm not able to release his name. I wasn't given this information officially, but that this man, this Scott Michael Green, I think the term the police officer used was deranged. That they had many, many, many home domestic dealings with him, and very inconsistent. You and I would probably use a medical term like bipolar or something like that.
Well, and that's that starts to give us at least some insight into what can go on to bring about something like this. And if he is one who was under treatment, I don't know. There's so many pieces of this to try to pull together. What we know there are two grieving families today, and then there is the family, the brotherhood of our law enforcement officers, and they will grieve for a long time together. And I'm glad that at least there's been an arrest, and that this case looks like it's moved towards resolution. To have that kind of terror perpetrated against the rest of the community any longer than it was also would have been a very bad thing.
Yeah, and this guy turned himself into the Dallas County sheriff this morning. There was no stakeout. There was no holdup. There was no nothing. He walked in to the Dallas County courthouse, the Dallas County sheriff, and turned himself in.
I would be interested in hearing how that unfolded piece by piece. It just the word deranged seems to, it came out of me before I had heard that that's how they described him.
Yeah, and I understand he's also a vet. So we're probably also dealing with some PTSD.
Yes, PTSD.
Yeah.
That makes it worse.
Yeah.
And what I don't want to do is I don't want to jump to any real more conclusions on this, and find out as many facts as we can and handle this thing as professionally as possible. The tragedy is just, it reminds me of something like this when you say potential PTSD. The tragedy of Chris Kyle being murdered by the individual he was trying to help out because of PTSD. But when I watched the 11-minute tape, I didn't get any kind of signal in there, any voice inflection or anything that would indicate that he had hostility towards the police officers. And I didn't hear him raise his voice in a way that made me think that he had an inclination or propensity towards violence. If somebody had shown me that tape yesterday, I would have not been particularly alarmed. I would have just thought that he was an individual trying to make a point that was too persistent in making his point. And so we'll find out over time, was he receiving treatment? If so, where? And what kind of treatment was it? And then what was he then been diagnosed as? And find out about his military history, about his employment history. I know nothing about his employment history at this point. I don't know. Is there anything out on that?
No, not as of yet. Things have kind of clamped down. The police now obviously are at I don't want to say they're at ease, but the opposite was they were locked down until mid-morning this morning. The Urbandale Police Department, Johnston Police Department, Des Moines Police Department, also Urbandale schools were all closed because at 6 o'clock this morning we thought we had a man on the loose. So we're just glad that's not the case. All right, Congressman, I appreciate your time today. We'll see you tomorrow in studio. And as we were going to talk about the elections coming up, hopefully we'll also be able to get a moment in time to discuss the other details of this tragic event here in your district and across our metropolitan area.
And it does affect the families of the two victim officers are rooted in my congressional district too. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. I look forward to being in the studio with you. We'll have some more facts to deal with at that time.
All right, Congressman.
Today, and my prayers and my heart go out to the families and the officers, everybody involved.
Yeah. All right. You're a good man. All right. Thanks, SK. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Congressman King. I'm sorry. I called him by his nickname.
You guys are that tight.
Well, we're not that tight.
You guys are texting and you use the emoticons and all that. You just
I don't think so.
And all that. Yeah.
But Congressman King and I helped each other with something some time back, and I had the genuine feeling that I was of service to a congressman. And I'm not saying that is any big deal. It was just me. It wasn't a radio thing. It was something else. And I don't know. There's something going on there with him and I. So he's a good guy.
So he's SK. You're MM. Would he kind of just call you
No. I'm macaroni.
Oh,
Macaroni.
Yeah. MAC-A-RONI.
Okay.
Okay, now I'm never going to get another email without it saying, Dear Macaroni. All right, that was Pastor Michael Damastis from Fort Des Moines Church of Christ, services at 10 a.m. He's in the studio. We're going to talk to him. They've got a big visual plan tonight. Clutch is in the house, a very passionate man when it comes to police officers and those serving. Of course, Chris Roloff is here. Frank, the Verse Thomas, Bob Montserrat, the cat in the hat watching the chat, and our reliable producer, Jeb, all in the house today for a special edition of Max World Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Hey everybody, I brought Northern Lights Pizza! And it's got Graziano sausage!
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens. Rock on! This is Pat McManus for Rock and Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
All right, 21 minutes after 3 o'clock, 3:21 on the second day of November in the Lord's year 2016, a day that I don't know if we'll ever remember the date. Will we remember 11/2/16? I don't know. But there will be a lot of people who will. And Michael Damastis from Fort Des Moines Church of Christ, you guys are going to remember it tonight with a special vigil.
Absolutely. I think the proper response when something like this happens is for believers to come together and pray. Jeremiah 29:7, the prophet is saying that we need to pray for the welfare of our city. And when you pray for the welfare of your city, it says in Jeremiah 29:7, you will benefit from that welfare. And so we need to be praying for our city. We need to be praying for those police officers that are dealing with the loss of a brother. And we need to be praying for their families. We need to be praying for first responders. I was just thinking this morning when I had to go out west. I was on 235 when they were bringing one of the police cars on 235. It was covered over, but it was the police car, and it had an escort, a police escort with his lights on.
It was on a trailer.
Tow trailer, yeah. And I just, I was thinking even the guy that's towing this car, knowing that everybody at some level is being impacted by this. It's a big deal, and police officers right now are facing so many stressors and so much hardship, and this is just adding to it. And I can't think of anything more important for us to do than to just come together and pray right now. And so that's what we're doing at the church building tonight, 6 o'clock, Fort Des Moines Church of Christ at Southeast 3rd and Army Post Road. I really hope you'll join us. Tamara Scott will be there helping lead some of this. Some other community representatives will be involved as well. But just come and just pray, because it's important. And if you don't make it to there, just pray.
Yeah, and there are some, even reach out to if you're not on the south side, reach out to your local church. There are a lot of churches, I think, that are doing this. I've heard that you guys are doing one. I believe Timberline Church in Urbandale is doing it. First Church of the Open Bible's got a prayer. There's a lot of places. So you might even just call your church and just say, are we praying? If not, can we? Can we do that? And I think it's a scary feeling. Even Police Sergeant Paul Parzak, when he was talking about this, I saw him on the news this morning, like many of us did. We forget, especially those of us who've moved to the Des Moines Metro from a larger city, the Des Moines Metro area, including the suburbs, this is not a really big place when you think about just law enforcement. Mm-hmm. These guys all knew each other.
Oh, yeah.
This is really rocking the community, I think, in a way that's different sometimes even when you hear about these things in places like Dallas or Chicago or New York or something like that. It's a community. We grieve as law enforcement, we grieve. But I think here there's a connection between the individual police officers that are just incredible. And I don't know how many of you saw the video that KCCI had of the what appeared to be wife and mother of another police officer who gave water bottles to one of the police officers that was on 70th Street here in Urbandale, and they just cried and embraced one another because she said that she would like to see her brother or her husband or brother or son or something come home, and there's just in the law enforcement world there is a lot of loss on a regular basis. They see a lot of trauma, and this one just seems so senseless and just completely out of the blue. I think we all just have pause and kind of ask the big question of why. I know I ask the big question of why. Not so much, Pastor Michael, the big question of why God. I don't question God in this. I think a lot of us feel like, what was going on with Scott, or this, right? Mr. Green.
Scott Michael Green.
What was going on with this guy?
Well, let's talk about what we know.
Here's something we know that is, again, I'm sorry, it's disturbing, but the chief of police for Urbandale reported this, that when Officer Martin was approached, Mr. Green walked up to him, not in another car, just walked up to the police vehicle and fired between 15 and 30 shots at him.
Isn't that a reload?
I don't know enough about guns.
You don't have 30.
It depends on the magazine size, I guess, or whatever weapon he's using. I mean, that's really what, who knows. But maybe he had multiple guns. You just don't know the answer to the question, I guess.
And if I understand it correctly, and I'm not putting facts out here, at this point, there's a lot of stuff we're just putting together. This was around his home. This was close to Scott Michael Green's home.
This is in his neighborhood. He's an Urbandale resident.
Yeah.
As you talked about, Mac, the Urbandale Police Department is very familiar with the guy. They've talked to him. They've had interactions with him before. One of the heartbreaking pieces of this news, and this is really just incredibly heartbreaking to me, that he has a daughter who attends the Urbandale High School.
Yeah.
And my prayers go to her and to her family and what she's got to be going through. I know Urbandale High School, of course, was closed today. Students didn't go in. But just an awful, to say embarrassing, I think is an understatement. This is awful for the family. This is life changing.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. And it's only going to take one bully. One kid who quite frankly doesn't have Jesus in his heart and decides that he's going to make somebody else look small so he can look big, and he's going to pick on her. He's going to say something, and I hope all parents of Urbandale kids are paying attention to what they're telling their kids today.
That's right.
Because nobody should go up to that young. Well, who knows? Maybe she won't even go back to school there.
Well, let me just reiterate something in 1 Samuel 12:23. Moreover, as for me, far be it from me that I should sin against the Lord by ceasing to pray for you. And I think that we need to understand it is a sin to not pray in situations like this when we know there's a need to pray for it. And that young girl needs our prayer. The Des Moines Police Department, their families, the families of these fallen soldiers. We've got to do this. We've got to pray. And so it's got to be more than just some trite sentiment of, we need to pray, and just not do anything. I mean, genuinely, you need to do it. And so I really, as a pastor, I'm not paid to do this, but I believe in this. Do it. Don't just say it. Don't just tritely make it happen. Just go for it. Really, genuinely pray for these people. Pray for our city.
Michael, I appreciate that very much. Why this morning, after hearing the news myself, being a broadcaster, I struggled. I said, what are we supposed to do as broadcasters? We're going to do this. We're going to do this show. I was very thankful you're going to be here, Pastor Spencer Caroff. I hope will join us at 4 o'clock. We'll get some more pastors to speak to us. But the only thing I could think of this morning is what I needed to do was pray. And one of the things that we fail to do in these situations is pause and pray. Turn off the radio. Turn off the television. Turn off your cell phone. Turn off all that stuff.
We don't turn off
and actually pray. It's the only thing I could do, and people may have heard it. I made a 60-second commercial, half of which is silence, and I just take a minute and pray. Look, I'm a broadcaster. I can't legally broadcast silence. The Federal Communications Commission get mad at me. But you can turn your radio off and pray, and it's okay. I won't be mad at you. But I think that it's got to be more than a Facebook tweet. It's got to be more than a social media post, that kind of stuff. I agree. This is real, and it's right here in our home. And looking at the map, our radio station sits
right in the middle
between the two events.
Yeah.
So this gentleman drove right past the front of our studios.
Is this the guy that gave you the ticket for the seatbelt?
No.
Okay. Clutch is in the studio today. Clutch.
This affects everybody in so many different ways. It really does. I woke up this morning psyched about the Cubs getting it done last night, excited about Game 7 today, and I haven't thought about Cubs baseball once today.
Yeah, that's right.
Not once. And I'm a baseball guy. I've been like the country, like the world, watching all this unfold with the Cubs and the Indians, but who's got time for that now in light of what just happened? You know what I mean? And
Well, and how many people here got phone calls from someplace else in the country?
I did.
Yeah,
I did too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a call from both families of mine, one in Nevada and one in California. I woke up, both of them, let me see, the one came in about 8:45, 9 o'clock, so that was 7 o'clock back there. They got up, turned on the news. Urbandale, Iowa, Des Moines, Iowa.
That's how I woke up too. 7:30, sister calling from Wisconsin. What is happening in your backyard? This is in Urbandale. That's where you live. Are you okay? I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah.
She's telling me from Wisconsin what's happening in my own backyard.
Yeah. And I think, Clutch, what you just said was very interesting about everybody woke up this morning. And I don't think there's any Cleveland Indian fans around Des Moines. There may be, so I don't mean to,
easy. Come on now.
Well, I don't mean to be, offensive to them, but most people are happy for the Cubs.
Exactly. Because they're God-fearing Christians.
Okay. Because if you're because what I've heard is God's a Cub fan.
Yes.
Yeah. And not a Cleveland fan.
Yeah, those are the pagans.
Just stirring it, man. You're just stirring the pot now.
I got Damascus in here. We heard.
I don't care.
He and I stir it together. Yeah.
And he's got a Cubs T-shirt under that hoodie.
I do.
Probably.
I
know you do.
I
know
know
you do.
It's there.
And here come the phone calls. Here come the phone calls now, probably.
Frank.
Well, I guess it's hit the big news, nationwide news, and apparently
it's on Fox at 6 this morning.
Yeah,
apparently Hillary Clinton has commented on it.
Oh, well, that's good.
So,
what did she say?
Is she going to take our guns away now?
Oh yeah, right. Now
she's probably just going to take.
Well,
our guns away.
There has been a push for that. I don't know if it was by her, but there were some stories that were associated with the story. We're talking about the only solution to this is take guns away from people. That's the only way to do it.
That obviously isn't the solution.
But I didn't see what Hillary had said, but I had seen some news on Facebook and some other media sources this morning that she had commented on the shooting.
515-244-0077. I'm just going to get right to the point.
Indians fans encouraged to call.
I'm going to get right to the point. Is this death penalty stuff? We don't have a death penalty in the state of Iowa. But
absolutely it is. And,
is it?
And the fact that we do not have the death penalty in Iowa is a shame to our state.
Really?
Absolutely.
And
talk to me about that.
Tell me when Genesis chapter 9 verse 6 was ever rescinded in the Bible.
I don't know what that 9:6 is.
Well, we should probably look it up and read it.
Frank?
I got it quicker than the Google here.
All right.
Michael, wouldn't you suggest this Scott Michael Green needs prayed for and his salvation needs prayed for, but that doesn't necessarily give us not an obligation to go forward with a death penalty if that calls for it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I am not a pacifist. And I believe as a pastor in the Glock for the flock, man. And I'll protect my sheep.
A Glock for the flock?
You betcha.
That is a T-shirt waiting to happen.
I'm going to protect my sheep no matter what. And I think that's part of a shepherd's responsibility is to protect their sheep. But I also believe, as Genesis chapter 9, verse 6 says, Chris?
God speaking to Noah, this was after the flood, reestablishment of the new creation. God said, whoever sheds the blood of man, by man shall his blood be shed. For God made man in his own image. So the question that you have to ask...
What's the methodology?
Well, but the question you have to ask, if someone takes $1 from me, how do they repay me? They give me $1 back. If someone takes my car from me, how do they pay me? They give me my car back or a car back. If someone takes my life from me, how do they repay me?
They can't.
Their life then has to be given up. It's the only fair payment for taking of a life. If we value life at the highest level,
absolutely,
but we don't.
We don't in this country. But if we did, and we valued life, and we said man is made in the image of God, and if you take the life of a man, the only way you can make restitution for that is to give up your own life. It doesn't have to be done in wrath, doesn't have to be done violently, doesn't have to be done even with anger. It's simply the payment that is due for taking another person's life.
And I would add, like I said earlier, in just quick reply, that verse has never been rescinded. That verse is something that is pre-10 Commandments. It is something that stands as a law for all of humanity, like the law of physics.
Say it again, Glock for the flock?
A Glock for the flock.
All right, we're coming back, 3:34, live here in Mac's World. It's a special edition of Mac's World, honoring the lives of Des Moines Sergeant Anthony Bamino and Urbandale Officer Justin Martin. It's your voice I want to hear, live in Mac's World.
Northern Lights Pizza's amazing garlic butter makes amazing breadsticks. Now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza. I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Homs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Okay, I'm 3:38, 22 before the top of the hour. I'm getting a text. I'm mispronouncing the officer's name in Des Moines, so I want to get this right.
It's Beminio.
Beminio. Okay. Beminio. Anthony Beminio. BE-MIN-EE-O. That would be the phonetic spelling.
Okay.
Beminio. All right. Now, you just brought up something interesting, Chris. I want to talk about this on the air. Can we do that? Are you okay with that?
We'll see. It's live radio.
The off-air conversations, I've said this for years, are always so much better than what's happening live on the air.
So Mac's gonna pull. We violated the first rule of Mac's World, which is we don't talk about the stuff in the break. So yes, sir, we're back in.
But now you planted the seed already. You got to talk about it now.
Yeah, we do.
Death penalty.
Yes.
Is it appropriate to talk about that in this place? I mean, the guy turned himself in. He and I'm not saying this excuses him, but he does recognize justice. He does recognize right from wrong.
Okay.
There is a question of whether he was a soldier.
Well,
do we know that?
I don't know about that, but he did say he complained when he turned himself in to the DNR there in Dallas County. He complained of a flare-up of a previous medical condition that he had. And I think that's why he's currently in the hospital.
That's the seeds of an insanity plea coming.
Yeah, I think so.
How is that not?
But do you think he knew that?
Do you think that's an excuse?
I mean, you're saying yes.
Yes. Doesn't justify the behavior.
So I
don't think.
Frank, what I hear you, what are you saying?
I'm saying that when people do that, when you're in prison, you always find God. And before you're going to prison, you always had a temporary loss of sanity for the crime you committed because you're setting up your defense or the public lawyer is setting up your defense.
I don't think that'll work in this case because he killed 2 people. an hour apart or whatever it was.
Well, it's 20 minutes apart, 2 miles apart.
All
yeah,
right.
that's the part. If
it was one,
that's horrible to say that.
Well, you just say
you
it.
could say that temporary insanity or some sort of crazy glitch, but then to travel 2 miles, 20 minutes away,
and do it again
doesn't make any sense.
I don't think there's any incentive.
But I don't know. This is a heartbreaking. To be honest, is a heartbreaking story. We're talking about the death penalty off the air. Philosophically, the death penalty, I'm an advocate for 2 reasons. One, I'm a Christian. Second reason is because I'm a Christian, and third reason because I'm from Texas.
Well, and it's Genesis 9:6, as you said, right? Which says.
Well, God gave the command or the principle, set forth the statute to Noah after the flood as he was giving him the new covenant laws. This was before the 10 Commandments were given, by the way. This is in Genesis chapter 9. God said to Moses, "Whoever sheds the blood of man, by man shall his blood be shed, for God made man in his own image." The principle there is not an eye for an eye, a tooth for tooth, that necessarily kind of thing. It's higher than that. It's to say that if a life is taken because the human life is made in the image of God, uniquely made in the image of God, is the most valuable thing on the planet, to take that life, the only reasonable restitution that can be made for that is for the person who took that life to give up their life. It's the only way the restitution can be made. And that's the argument that I made right before the break, which is if you take my car from me, the only way you can make restitution is to give me a car back. If you take my life from me, the only way you can give that restitution back from me is for you to forfeit your life.
Frank?
Well, the reason why God supports the death penalty, or Christ would support the death penalty, is he himself, it was exacted on him. And he didn't bother to commute the sentences of the other 2 who were condemned to die next to him. So if he doesn't do that, clearly he doesn't object to the death penalty. But
No, that's just your opinion.
Even if somebody steals because they're hungry, according to the Bible, they were supposed to restore fourfold if they stole because they was hungry to eat. So if they take a life, clearly the only restitution can be a life.
Right. The challenge in all this, and Pastor Michael, you can speak to this, the challenge in all this, though, is at these moments, like today, there is something inside of the human heart that is evil, wicked, and sinful that wants to rise up and get vengeance.
Yes, and I think that's the importance of recognizing that even though we have a desire for swift justice, we also need to make sure that it is actual justice. And so making sure that he is proven fully to be guilty is a very important part of this process. And if he is proven guilty, I believe the rebellious laws of Iowa need to be changed so that true justice can be metered out with an individual that would act such a horrible, violent thing against innocent people.
Now, back in the day, by the way, you're listening to 99.3 The Truth. J. Michael McCoy, along with a cast of characters today for a special edition of Max World Live. I used to work with a guy by the name of Bradshaw, and of course, Bradshaw and I would go back and forth all the time about abortion. And he would say, well, if you're against abortion, you can't be for the death penalty. But that's not biblically accurate.
No, it's not. It's a
liberal.
It's a false understanding of what it means to be actually for life. The reason that we are so for life is that, as Chris was so eloquently saying, in my opinion, is that if you violate that principle and you take someone's life, there's nothing higher on this planet than life itself. And if you do that, God has said, well, that means your life is forfeit itself. And so we're going to remove yours as well from this planet.
So why don't we have, I'm just asking, why don't we have the death penalty? What's the argument against the death penalty?
Well, one of the main arguments is because wrongful accusation. One of the highest reasons, I was against the death penalty myself for a long time as a Christian. One of the biggest reasons against the death penalty is because people are often falsely accused. And in the United States, especially during the time when we had racial division in a high way, in a large way in the United States. If something like this would have happened, they could have just pinned it on the nearest African-American person and just hung him.
Right.
And they would have called that justice, and they would have said that's the law, that's justice. That's what we're following Genesis 9, we're a life for a life, all that sort of stuff. And that was just bogus. And we have to have fair justice in this. Pastor Michael pointed out. And so the reason why a lot of states don't have the death penalty is because they're not always sure.
Right.
And in order to get the death penalty, even for a murder case, they have to be absolutely sure.
And
they can't have any
This
hint of
guy
doubt.
turned himself in. How does this go south? This guy turned himself in and said, I did this to the DNR officer.
Because as soon as he is represented by a lawyer, the lawyer is going to say, well, he was coerced, or he was out of his mind, or he was intoxicated, or...
So for the next 40 years, at $80,000 a year, we're going to house this guy and pray for him.
Yeah. Yeah, welcome to grace.
And some people would advocate that silence or violence begets violence. Like if you spank your child, you're teaching your child violence. That would be the liberal, sacrosanct bile that is spewed out that, that we're teaching people their only way to solve and resolve problems is through the use of violence.
515-809-0993. That's the number of the Service Legends Truth Talk text line at 515-809-0993. Brought to you in part by First Call Bail Bonds. They remind you not to text and drive if you've got a comment. I guess my question this hour and next is going to be death penalty. Do you think this is a case for the death penalty? I would love to hear from some listeners on this. I'm going to poll this room for just a second. Bob, death penalty or not? In this case.
Well, yes.
What's the hesitation? I'm sorry. What was the hesitation? What I see you processing
Why
this.
just this case? I guess that's my question. That was my pause.
This seems black and white like that. I think.
Why? But in general, you're against it. But in this case, you'd be. No,
you're asking me specifically for just this case.
And you said yes.
Yes.
Okay, Frank. Yes.
Yes, but some people would advocate because it's a police officer who puts his life on the line for others. This should warrant the death penalty automatically, and I dispute that. I think any life taken deserves the death penalty.
Real quick, yes, no.
In this specific case, I don't know yet.
All right.
Yes, absolutely.
I would say yes if he's proven to be guilty.
Yes. All right, we're coming back. What about you guys? 515-244-0077. It's your voice. I want to hear live this afternoon on 99.3. This is the truth. Yeah, the truth.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens. Rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
Northern Lights Pizza, your home of the tasty crust. Our garlic butter sauce now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
10 minutes before the top of the hour, 3:50 live here in Max World on 99.3 The Truth. Michael Damastis from Fort Des Moines Church of Christ, services 10 a.m. on Sundays. you've got a special prayer vigil coming up tonight at your church.
Yeah, we do. 6 p.m. tonight. I really want to encourage the community to come out and, as Chris said, or find out if you're doing it at your own church too. But you're welcome to come. We're at the corner of Southeast 3rd and Army Post Road. I am excited. We're going to have Tamara Scott, some other community leaders there, and just people that just want to come and pray. I mean, because that is right now. That is what our response is. And we're here talking about theological responses and the death penalty and all those things, but really, frankly, there is no other proper response right now than to pray. And I would add in, we do these things for vets. We see them, we shake their hand, we say thank you. We buy their drink at Quick Trip or whatever. I do that frequently. Yep. Do it for cops.
Amen.
Man. Do it every time you see a cop. Don't let them pay for their meal or their drinks, or do whatever you can to encourage those men and women when you see them.
It shouldn't take situations like this to warrant that. This is something that should happen all the time. I'm right there with you, man.
I agree 100%.
Pastor Glock for my flock, and those T-shirts will be manufactured. Hey, can we put that information about your vigil tonight somewhere on a Facebook page, or can we do that, Matt?
I've shared it on mine, but whatever. I mean, that's fine. I cool. Just 6:00, Fort Des Moines Church of Christ.
That's how we heal. Prayer.
Yeah,
that's how we
right.
heal.
That's right.
There is a video online. Apparently, Scott Michael Green, who is a suspect in these horrific killings of these two police officers last night, apparently he appears to have a YouTube page in which he records an incident where he is at an Urbandale football game, and he is waving the Confederate flag in front of the student body, primarily a student body in this section of the Urbandale football field, or stands, made up of African-American students, saying that the Confederate flag is an example of a freedom of speech in this country. And this was 3 weeks ago, in which he was then asked to leave.
And if you watch the video, which I have, and Congressman King referenced that video as well, he was asked to leave the premises. He was asked to leave, and he essentially was cooperative. I mean, he didn't do it immediately. I mean, cooperative is one way of thinking about it, but I mean, he filmed it. Right. He said, you're harassing me, you're pushing me away. But essentially, he did move on. He didn't have to be manhandled or pushed or shoved or anything like that, and he didn't push back on the police officers. So he went very peaceably, which again kind of goes to this thing. We talked about it before. Mr. Green did, in fact, turn himself in earlier today. He was in Dallas County, and he was walking on a gravel road near Interstate 80, south of Redfield is what the report says. When Green showed his ID to a DNR officer and asked the DNR officer to call 911, and they did, 911, and they did, and they took him to the hospital where he is now currently, and he's being charged. Or I'm sorry, he's not charged. He's just in custody. At this point.
What? Do we know how he got there? Did he walk there? I mean, did he have a car?
No, I believe he had a car. I think there were some other reports that I saw that his car was found a little bit further away.
Where's the weapon? I'm sorry. Where's the weapon, do you think?
Well, we listened to, and you can see this. I think it's online at various places. They did a press release. A press conference at about 11 o'clock earlier today, and they don't know.
They don't have the weapon?
They don't have the weapon as far as at the time. That was at 11 o'clock. So, yeah, so that's
very difficult to prosecute.
Right.
Without the murder weapon.
Right.
Should Green be presumed innocent in this case?
Absolutely.
That's his right.
Absolutely.
Or should he be guilty till proven innocent?
No, he's innocent until proven guilty. Let's not change that.
Where do we live?
That's now, if he confessed
with no weapon, I'm confused.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that, that's why we've got to back off on, and just let's hang him or whatever. I think we need to figure out what's going on. Let the police officers do their job and their due diligence in this. And, maybe he was out there in the country road because he walked out in the woods and pitched the gun or threw it in the river, or who knows,
Right.
Then why say that he did it then?
Well, we don't know if he did, right?
Well, he turned himself in. We don't know if he committed to agreed to doing anything or said that he did anything. He did, in fact, turn himself in, though. And it could just very well have been that people were texting him like crazy. I mean, his face was all over the place.
Right. No, I don't. Now, I could be wrong on this. I don't think his face was all over the place until after he turned himself in.
No, it was well before.
Yeah, it was well before.
It was well
so
before.
they had him as a suspect.
Yes, he was the suspect.
How did they determine that? We don't know.
Good question.
We don't know. And
all right, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they had him as
There's
a suspect.
probably footage on the cars and all that stuff of the police officers.
Very possible. Again, neighborhood approximation. There's a variety of reasons that he may have been that, because that's how they put it out. They were looking for him to ask him questions.
Oh, okay. All right, so let's go to the Service Legends Truth Talk text line. Bob Montserrat at 809-0993. You have some texts.
Yeah, the sad thing is this guy will get a court-appointed lawyer to represent him, and the taxpayer pay for that, number one. Number two, I'm a supporter of the Des Moines Police myself, but watch Errol Morris' 1988 documentary, The Thin Blue Line. It certainly supports Chris' comment that about false accusation. It is a very disturbing film.
Yeah, and I would just echo on that thought. Look at that movie on Netflix, that documentary of the killing, the guy and
what, The Making of a Murderer.
The Making of a Murderer. Thank you. And I mean, that's there's just so much weird stuff with that, and that is such a popular show, and that those sentiments that arrive in our nation about we got to be careful on capital punishment. I believe in capital punishment. I also believe in thorough, appropriate justice. So
right. We don't want vigilantes. We don't want people taking matters into their own hands. Right. This is an issue of justice and needs to go through the Justice Department, through the legal system. We have a legal system in the country because we respect life. We want to do all those things.
Okay. We're out of time for this hour. Spencer Karoff from First Church of the Open Bible. I know they're having a vigil too. So depending on what side of town you live on, you'll be able to go to a vigil. And maybe every church is tonight. I don't know.
I recommended, call your church just to find out if they are having a prayer service. If they're not, maybe you can have one. Get a couple of you and some folks and do it if you want to go to your own church. But there are a lot of churches in the area that are having services tonight. Fort Des Moines Church of Christ on the south side starts at 6 o'clock. Pastor Spencer's coming in here in a minute, and they've got one at First Church of the Open Bible. And I know Timberline Church in Urbandale is doing one as well. And I'm sure there are many, many others.
If you can't make those, pray. Just pray.
That's right. You don't have to be in the building to pray. It's okay even if you turn the radio off to pray right now. It's okay.
Okay, Pastor Damascus, thanks for being here. First, Fort Des Moines Church of Christ, services 10 a.m. on Sundays, special prayer vigil tonight at 6 o'clock. Spencer Karoff going to take that seat next to Clutch, and we'll continue this live news coverage of these murders, assassinations, just these tragic killings. So why do you think God let it happen?
God didn't. I don't think God did let it happen. We have freedom of choice in this life.
Okay, we'll talk about that. I have a theory on that. Coming back next, live here in Mac's World on The Truth. Yep, it's The Truth.